Let's bring Jason Oxman in, who's the president and CEO of the Information Technology Industry Council. Welcome, Jason. Good to see you. But Trump says it's all solved now. They've talked it through. It kind of brings up the larger issue of President Trump and big business, but particularly big tech and these tech industry CEOs trying to navigate all that's going on right now. What would you say about the way they're doing it?
Well, I think all industries are trying to navigate a period of a little bit of uncertainty, and the tech industry certainly was very focused on, in the early days of the Trump administration, announcing investments in the U.S. You saw actually the very first announcement in the White House the day after the inauguration was Oracle and SoftBank and OpenAI announcing a $500 billion investment in AI manufacturing. So tech companies have been making those announcements, rolling them out, and trying to navigate a little bit of uncertainty right now in the current environment.
Yeah, speaking of AI, Zuckerberg and Meta just launched a new standalone, or announced one, a standalone AI app today. So there's more announcements of innovation and the like. I thought it was interesting in getting the White House's point of view. The May Melman, one of the president's advisors, when she was on, you know, we asked so many questions about tariffs, which I did, but she started with energy, but also with regulation. And to me, that reminds me of, I think, one of the reasons a lot of these tech CEOs, other than the fact that he is president, you want to be close to whoever is president, started going to Trump's side, right? The Zuckerbergs of the world. I don't know about Elon Musk if he's in that camp, but they liked the fact that he wasn't going to regulate their businesses, they were told, whether it be especially new businesses like AI.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the president, very early on, in fact, with 2 executive orders now on AI, has announced his intention to make the AI leadership of America core to his administration.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. The tech industry sees a lot to like there. And of course, AI has a number of components to it. There's manufacturing components to it, these giant data centers we need to build across the U.S. with the compute power that's necessary for AI. We also want to make sure we can export AI capabilities to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You know, 95% of the people who live on the planet don't live in the U.S. We want them to enjoy U.S. technology innovation as well.
Which brings up the larger point, which is tariffs, of course, right? And the back and forth. So it's just this balance about, you know, yeah, there's stuff that they like. That's why they supported him. That's why some of them sat behind him at the inauguration. There's stuff they like. But the tariffs, I'm not so sure. What would you say about that in terms of how tech sees it?
I think the safe way to put it is we're eager to move from a time where tariffs are the trade policy to a time where trade agreements are the trade policy. We've seen some early signs of that. Treasury Secretary earlier today announcing some forward progress in trade talks. Secretary Lutnick from the Commerce Department announcing that we're about to ink a deal with a country. He wouldn't name the country. But we've heard the president say they're talking to literally dozens of countries. So you're absolutely right. The tariff policy as a long-term strategy could be harmful to the U.S. economy. The uncertainty is certainly a challenge, but the trade agreements that we're talking about entering into, that could be the renaissance for American business, and I think that's the kind of certainty we're looking for.
So we've had a discussion about whether there's been lasting damage done to the economy and also to kind of the trust of America. Some people have brought that up and said, man, there's been lasting damage versus whether, all right, president can still kind of find a quote-unquote off-ramp, can still get this figured out, and we'll be okay in the economy. How would you kind of circle those two or bring them together?
Yeah, I think the answer to the question is it's not too late, and the lasting damage would come if the tariffs remain the strategy for the foreseeable future. And
so there's still time.
There absolutely is still time. Now, trade agreements take a period of time to negotiate, so we're not expecting this to be resolved overnight. But if we can get to a place where frameworks are in place, where the negotiation outline is put in place with a number of countries and get those tariffs removed, that puts us on a good path forward.
All right, Jason, good to see you. Thanks for coming in today.